Hello and welcome back, everyone, to Bloodstained Ritual of the Night Hard Mode, fresh on Rocket Rabbit Commentaries. And in this episode, after having successfully encountered Alfred and done a little bit more plot exposition of what the fuck is going on, specifically that Dominique has betrayed us, we are going to continue going through the Den of Behemoths, which, as many of the people that have played Bloodstained already will note is, just a magnified version of the Garden of Silence. If you pay attention to some of the background dialogue between Johannes and one of the characters in the novelizations, you actually get spoiled to this area being a thing due to the alchemical experiments that were going on in the Alchemy Guild before the events of the game. There was an alchemist that was attempting to figure out what size manipulation he could do using alchemy, and this is the product of that.
It's a small world after all.
We are getting lots of summon bat. It's an okay shard to use, especially when the critical hit procs, and it's really nice. I think I've not actually explained all that much. Is that specific shards actually happen to have different triggers that can happen somewhat randomly. Summon Bat, Summon Toad, and Shovel Armor are the big ones for it, where they actually have secondary attacks tied to their normal usage. Summon Bat summons a giant bat when you use it. Summon Toad summons a giant toad when you use it, and Summon Shovel Armor does a screen nuke.
Screen nuke. Jeez, I'm digging deep into my memory where I've seen that jump kick, that diagonal downward kick into oblivion before that actually sent me at one point careening into a chasm.
Dude, in a lot of 2D platformers that give you access to the drop kick, that's what you end up using it for, specifically for speedruns, strategies. Miriam's dive kick is actually really nice because she doesn't have all that much ending lag on it, so she can either do backstep, slide, or jump canceling in order to get rid of her ending lag. I forget if she can do shards in order to cancel ending lag though. And this is one of my favorite rooms in the game for farming experience on, because these giant cannons, as long as you're using any weapon that has any amount of downward striking hit frames, you can just farm on the giant cannons up here really, really easily.
Indeed. And you just land on them.
And Flame Cannon is honestly a decent shard. There's a talk going on today specifically about how good specific shards are, and one of the community's preferred shards to level up early on is actually Flame Cannon. I'm not the biggest fan of Flame Cannon. I've not actually played with it being maxed out ever, but it's a tad expensive, and I always get the impression that Flame Cannon is more or less here's the tutorial for the directional shards, and as such it's not supposed to be all that powerful. But realistically, if you get it to 9/9, it is in fact one of the better fire elemental shards in the game. It's much better than Flamethrower. I don't think it's better than Inferno Breath, but Inferno Breath can't really get to 9/9 without a bunch of New Game Plus farming, so... Oh look, it's the Abyssal Guardian again! Yeah, the Den of Behemoths specifically, because of the gimmick of us being, a much smaller character in an area with a lot of giant things. Yeah, this is where they decided to put the Abyssal Guardian as a normal enemy.
Broforce. It was Broforce. That was the game I was thinking of.
Really, Broforce had you do dive kick into oblivion?
It might have been not Tank Girl. One of these jet propelled bros did not make it easy to traverse while you're going underneath the map, and then you have a lot of pits you have to negotiate around and not enough platforms. I'm pretty sure that was it. Among 2D side-scrolling platformers that I played, especially a game where you can just destroy every single platform you see, and then die as a result. Strikes me as likely that Broforce was the one where I tragically dove kicked into a chasm.
It probably wasn't Worms, because Worms doesn't usually have you with any vertical movement at all. Also, make sure to check this chest behind the foreground in order to get the Valkyrie Tiara, the literal best helm accessory, helm look accessory, aside from technically the ribbon in the game. And now it is time for us. Well, after we go save again, because the Valkyrie Tiara is awesome and I want to keep it. But now it is time for us to deal with the boss of Den of Behemoths.
Indeed. The behemoth. The chief behemoth.
Yeah, no, it's not a behemoth. Although, our cash is looking really high for this fight, but I don't want to back out all the way. This specific boss, I think, has got a small problem with the level design, where they really should have put a transport mirror in Den of Behemoths, but they didn't. Hey, Valafar.
Nice. He's pretty big. He's a behemoth.
Yes, he's big, but he is not actually all that difficult. I didn't realize that I had so many frame drops during this fight. I mean, it makes sense, honestly.
Well, there's a lot of activity.
Given how much I'm using, Inferno Breath. Okay, and that is phase 1. Yep, that's phase 1. So, when Valafar starts phase 2, he heals a certain amount depending on how much money that you bring in with you. I think he's supposed to heal between 10 and 20% of what you bring in with you. So since I brought in 20 grand, he's got about 2,000, somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 extra HP.
Does he take your money,
he
or
does
does
actually
just...
take your money, but it's okay. We will get our money back at the end of the fight.
Gotcha.
The coin shot specifically is the attack that I have the most problems actually dodging. Wow, I really should have actually watched this part first. I am sorry, guys. I did not know.
Well, I mean, what could have you done about it? I mean, the fucking boss fight crapped out.
Well, here's the thing. It wasn't this crapped out while I was playing, so.
I think the problem is every time you hit him, coins spill out.
Well, they're supposed to spill out, but you'll notice that we're not actually seeing them spill out.
I see them coming out of his belly. What do you mean I busted? Going all in.
I actually like I like the Valafar fight a lot. It's not one of my favorite fights, honestly. It's no Ouroboros, but it is still a pretty fun fight, honestly. I was considering showing off the way to totally cheese out the fight that is less cheesy on hard mode, where you put on the Aegis plate and use invert for the whole fight, because then he has exactly one attack that he can hit you with, and that is the coin cannon that he fires off from his thumbs. But I decided to fight him fairly.
Yeah. If you use invert, the ceiling is made of spikes.
So?
How do you stand on the ceiling?
Aegis plate.
Wow.
Yeah, the Aegis plate disables all elemental hazards, and spikes are an elemental hazard.
Well, that is a worthy exploit if I've ever heard one.
They did not intend for you to fight Valafar with the Aegis plate, for the record.
Oh, I beg to
No.
differ.
It has been confirmed that the Den of Behemoths was designed relatively early on, and the players were not actually supposed to have the Aegis plate going into Den of Behemoths. Den of Behemoths, aside from one other area, doesn't really have any way for you to actually abuse the Aegis plate. I honestly believe that they originally were going to have you get the Aegis plate before you went to Inferno Cave. That way you could use its invulnerability in order to get through a majority of the lava area. But I don't have any concrete proof of that. But it's been said by the devs multiple times that they made a mistake with boss placement where Valafar should not have been in Den of Behemoths. The spikes on the ceiling are specifically there so that you can't so that you were supposed to have invert, but not the Aegis plate.
You can say that the bosses that are rich with comic relief might more likely appear earlier in the game than later.
I wouldn't say that Valafar is actually a comic relief fight, honestly. I think his gimmick is actually really nice, and it is, in fact, a direct reference to the original Bloodstained, because Valafar shows up in Bloodstained 1 as a stage boss.
It still strikes me as campy. The dude is a homage to casinos and gambling, which is, in my opinion, a massive takeaway from this castle setting.
But it's not, because it's, we are in the early 1900s, technically, so...
Well, they've had casinos in the 1900s.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. They most certainly would have had, some aspects of gambling in England, specifically with card and coin games at this time in England's history. So
the only thing he was missing was the tobacco and that lengthy filter piece that you see aristocrats use.
Opioid pipes.
Oh yeah, that's right. They probably smoke. Well, that explains why he had developed a gambling addiction.
So, anyway, we have entered the Glacial Tomb. I dislike this area. Ooh, got an Alexandrite, though. Yay! The reason why I dislike Glacial Tomb is that you'll notice it's actually got a very similar construction specifically to Inferno Cavern, especially in these vertical hallways. But the big problem with that is that this is actually the last area in the game. Well, effectively. And because of it, the enemies that we're fighting here are significantly more powerful than pretty much anywhere else in the castle. But it's not necessarily their power; it's their overall presence that ends up being the big issue. These ice elementals specifically are resistant to a majority of the types of damage in the game, with the exception of, I believe, of specifically fire and blunt. And Miriam doesn't really get access to all that many good blunt weapons. She gets a few good blunt shards, and then you get these demon lords that have their what are effectively screen nuking spells, and they have a shit ton of HP. Yay, we leveled up.
Yeah, level up.
But yeah, I dislike this area specifically because of the quality of the enemies in here is a tad too high. I understand it's the last area in the game, and the enemies should be significantly difficult in the last area of the game, but the actual difficulty from the enemies isn't really from their attacks. It's just from how tanky that they are. It's the real reason why Ice Elemental is such a big problem. Oh, also, this is the Great Axe Armor. Expect to become very good friends with not this one, but a different one, because Great Axe Armor is the only enemy in the game that can drop very specifically Orichalcum. You cannot prior to the Journey DLC, you could not obtain Orichalcum any other method other than farming on the Great Axe Armor. We managed to get a Fiend Skull, damn it. And this is a problem because a majority of the best weapons in the game require 1 or 2 pieces of Orichalcum in order to craft. And the inability to get Orichalcum aside from Great Axe Armor means that you have to come into this area in order to actually get a majority of, well, the best equipment in the game. So at the very end of the game, you have to spend an additional hour or 2 attempting to farm exactly 1 or 2 material from enemies that are relatively tanky and difficult for a non-max Miriam to take down.
Vectors.
Yeah, must heal up.
Fish does sound pretty good right now.
I chose not to heal up.
Anytime is a good
that
time
was
for
a bad
fish.
decision of me.
Oh, you still okay? got a pause menu. You can use it at any time you want to.
Unlike Dark Souls, which has a pause menu that you can't use. Meh.
It's more of an inventory screen. There are no pause menus in Dark Souls. You know what's the real pause menu? It's the quit game button.
Okay, we made it to the save room. Booyah. So, I don't think we're going to be showing it off this part, are we? Probably not. Yeah, we're just grabbing the rest of the stuff here, and then we're ending off. In the next part, we will start the second to last boss in the game. I would like to kill this ice elemental specifically because it drops resist ice, and I will need resist ice later.
Gonna need resist ice so you can resist more than these demon figure pieces they got frozen against the wall backdrop.
I'm glad that you actually noticed that, because for like the first 2 playthroughs I didn't actually notice that there were Castlevania references in the background. Anyway, everyone be safe.